And Crowd with the $5. What topic do you think lefties are the most incompetent in? I think it's natural resources / environmental issues. Need more vocal ecologists on the left. Dude, for me, it's economics, okay? There are way too many people who will defend, like, traditional Soviet-style command economies. How many people died of, like, starvation in the Soviet Union and in Mao's China? Like, in Mao's China, it was, like, tens of millions of people. Like, if you... if any country which tens of millions of people die is necessarily a bad country. That's for Jesus Christ. Yeah, those traditional style command economies were like a massive bureaucracy, like divvies all this shit up. It just doesn't. To be fair, the Great Leap Forward was very different from traditional planned economies. It was uniquely bad. That is true. Mao was uniquely incompetent at planned economies. You know, this wasn't just your average planned economic failure. Okay, this was advanced economic or planned economic failure. You know, this was some spectacular. And really the only thing you guys can ever learn from Mao is guerrilla warfare tactics. And his it's like a Jackson Pollock painting, you know. It's just a giant fucking mess, and you can't learn from any individual's, you know, slap of paint, but you can kind of get a learn something about yourself from taking a look at the whole. Yeah. That's one of the classic problems with revolutions. People who are good soldiers are not necessarily good government officials. What's the main issue with command economies? Is it the inability to do computations in so many variables, or a general structural problem? The main issue, as far as I can tell, is that any good economy needs to be rife with surplus. Or, to put it another way, surplus is necessary to maintain subsistence, you know? When you're dealing with millions of people living in tens of thousands of towns all over the country with tens of thousands of supply lines, it's never enough to go, oh, this town is 10,000 people. Let's make sure it has enough food for 10,000 people. That town needs enough food for 30,000 people, okay? And not just any one kind of food that's most efficient to distribute, you know? It needs everything. It needs everything that you can provide of every type of thing. Excess is necessary because, as we saw with the COVID pandemic, all it takes is a couple of supply line failures for a country that should have everything to start suddenly having shortages on the grocery shelves. Economies are really complicated, and there are just so many competing interests when it comes to their management. So, for example, let me put it this way, okay? There are so many things that go into this, okay? When you are a capitalist company and you are producing foods to sell to grocery stores, okay? No matter what food you produce, the food is sold and priced proportional, more or less, you know, not perfectly, but proportionally, more or less, to the rarity of the food, how much time and effort it took to produce, you know, supply, demand, basic shit like that, right? That makes sense. So if you're producing more expensive stuff, you sell it at a higher price. You make the money back. That's how it works, obviously. That's how the economy works, okay? But if you have a command economy where the government's handling all of this, don't you guys understand? Surplus suddenly becomes waste. And if a government is obsessed with austerity, if a government is obsessed with, you know, maintaining thin margins, what before was decried as capitalist excess, you know, oh, you want caviar at your local grocery store, whatever, if you're willing to pay $20 for it, suddenly becomes, inefficient central planning. And then you have these situations where, you know, some bureaucrat in the capital says, well, there are so and so many people, so they need so and so this and that. And if they get any more than this, then it will be seen as waste. And if this site is more than this site, a lot of it's a blame thing too. You know, if one city ends up with more than another, it ends up becoming a political problem in a unique way, different than if there's just a different availability of stores. Or imagine if City A has an abundance of resources, but City B has fewer when in a command economy. This seems like political favoritism, no? Whereas in a capitalist economy, it could just be there aren't enough stores open in City B. It stops being a government problem and starts being just a, oh, we need entrepreneurship problem. There are just so many competing interests here. I think you can make an argument for decentralized decommodification, but traditional style command economies are just not the way to go. I'm only skimming the surface, by the way. The thing is, if you look into it, okay, the economy of the Soviet Union was like holistically bad. Like, I'm not an economics major, it's very complicated, but like basically what's happening right now, okay, is like we're looking we're looking at a junker of a car, and I'm telling you how the paint job is scuffed. Okay, you're asking me like, so why won't this car run after the car has been compressed into a cube by the junkyard, compactor? And I'm looking at it and going, well, you can see the blue paint's really scuffed on the top here, and that window looks broken. I can't even begin to touch on everything that's wrong with it. I don't have the engineering knowledge. The U.S. economy is also holistically bad. No, not not in the same way, at least. There are different problems, but not in the same way. Not for sure in a different way, but has wild inefficiencies. We may have our inefficiencies, but look up anything going on in the Soviet Union, and we have it lucky. We really do. Not to say there aren't consequences to our excess production, but uh, it's a matter of degrees.